Got a 2015 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Nothing special. This is like one of the most common issues you're gonna have with the 3.6 engines with the Chryslers. Is going to be the oil cooler or oil filter housing leaking, and that's what we got here. This is actually a relative of mine, her cousin car, her husband. So, and you'll be able to find plenty of these online, how to pull off the intake. It's not that bad because somebody already been through here. There was some things missing, made my life a lot easier. This truck sat overnight, which allowed the oil to hopefully go back to the oil pan. And currently, as I'm pulling all this stuff off, obviously the intake's off, the upper and lower intake. Just use the 8mm and the inverted star bit. Like I said, somebody already been through here. Remove the wiring harness with the map sensor, injectors, and ignition coils to get to this point. And I pulled the oil filter off just to, make sure all the oil was drained out and went back in the pan. So my best chances of making this as clean as possible is going to happen. Now, I've done one before where you'll take off, if you don't drain the coolant, you can make a really big mess and the oil will mix with the water. You don't want to do that. Just want to, if possible, hopefully I've done it right, just let everything drain and everything should be leveled out and it'll minimize the mess. So I've done one and it was a mess. Like his coolant was leaking, oil was leaking. It was a mess. It just created a puddle in here and I had to suck everything out of it just to get it cleaned up. Then when I wound up putting everything back on, I used several rags, suction pumps, and I still wound up hitting it with some brake cleaner to get all the stuff cleaned up, and it turned out pretty well. That was actually the video of that sludge buildup on, what was that car? Dodge made that van. I cannot think of it right now. I don't see those too often. But that van, that Dodge ProMaster, that's the one. The Ram van, he used it for commercial business, and it was a mess, pure mess. So let me shut up. I think I talked enough. I'm gonna hit it with some brake cleaner, well, compressed air first, brake cleaner, and clean this area off as well as I can, and get the old one out and get the updated aluminum one back in. Let's get this off of here. I got an E8, and that is fitting perfect on there. Pull those off. And I got a pipe, a hose in the back. I'm gonna have to get off. These are loose. Oh, I gotta lift up on it. This connector off. Pressure sensor. That's another one in the back. Lift straight up, right? That's way better than the ones I did before. It's so much neater. Could have been worse. There. Gosh, what's in here? Make a mess again. Here's a towel. This is a lot better than what I dealt with last time. Way better. So you got your knock sensors down here and your various orifices where coolant either goes into or enters or exit. So then there's our oil drain here, coolant, and oil. So oil look like oil here too. Oil, coolant. So what I'll do in this particular case, probably take several racks. Well, it's pretty deep. This is real deep. I'm just gonna probably take a pump all that fluid out. Rinse and repeat till I get it down to a nominal level, and just hit it with some brake cleaner and compressed air. All right, don't be mad at me. I didn't plug up those oil feed and drains, so yeah, whatever happens, gonna be totally my fault. I did hit it with some brake cleaner last, so you see some of the stuff sitting on the side of the engine there and those little crevices. I hit it with some more brake cleaner, so that's going to evaporate when the engine warm up and allow the old oil to mix and then bake on there. So I'm not gonna break my neck over it. It's gonna work out just fine. Just getting the last little touches cleaned up. It's not gonna be 100%. I mean, I don't think it's worth putting all that time trying to clean it when it'll evaporate anyway, especially mixed with that brake cleaner. So let me show you what I got. I got the new housing. This is a Dorman product, and I'm not disappointed I got the Dorman. I mean, it's aluminum. You do have to assemble this. Here's the Dorman one. I'll have to show you the part number, but the box is pretty large. I got all my O-rings on here. It came with all new O-rings. It did not come with the temperature sensor or the oil pressure sensor. I did have to buy a new one. I had a problem getting this 19 millimeter coolant temp sensor out. Didn't have any issue getting this oil pressure sensor out. I'll show you the part number for that also. And yeah, these star bit for the cooler just need to be snugged down. They do give you torque specs. So let's get the hose on there first and install in reverse order. So if I can, let me put this towel down here. Then I'll release that with the pliers. Okay, that's nice and tight. I think we're good with that. I guess it's debatable if it's worth putting a hose connect like a universal hose clamp on it. All right, that's Is that lock in place? This is locking. Okay, a lot. All right, just to make certain. So make sure my gaskets are nice and flush. I want to lube this up with some dielectric grease so it'll go in that hole easy. Should be fine. Should just fall right on in there. Perfect. That's way better. Here's the new bolts it came with. It came with every single thing you need. I mean, it's like $300, $355 part. And it literally just came with everything. New gasket set for the lower and upper intake. Everything but the coolant temperature sensor and the oil sensor. So it would have been cool if it would have came with it, but unfortunately it didn't. I think the plastic ones come with it. That's the benefit of getting that one. It'll come with those two components. I guess because you get so much for the upgrade and they're not going to give you anything. I should put a rag in this oil filter housing just to be on the safe side. I am going to do that. I'm going to dump these screws in there. All right. Use the same 8mm. Snug in the X pattern. So the torque for the filter housing to the block is going to be 106 inch-pounds, which is about, let's say about 10 foot-pounds. Something that I can achieve with a 1/4 inch. You don't have to be tight. I don't want to say like super tight like any other bolt. Anytime it has inch-pounds, I just use this and snug it down so we're fine. Let me get the oil filter in there and its new oil filter cover. We're gonna lube up the oil filter. O-ring at the top, and then the O-ring. There you go. And we'll put it in. There you go. a 24 millimeter. It's a little snug and that's it. It's tight. I'll clean it off when I get done. So we're done with all of this. That's the main stuff. The only thing left is to put the intake back on. Like I said, it comes with new gaskets. Here was the part number for the temperature sensor. If y'all know, I frequently patronize O'Reilly's. There you go. There's a temperature sensor. The new one I had to install. And here's the part number to the new housing. Right there, 926-5, I'm sorry, -959, 926-959. Now I got, as somebody would describe, rubber bands. These for the intake gaskets, the lower and upper. I'll install these when I put everything back and snug the bolts down. I'm not gonna forget my rags because I did double stack those. That's the last thing I would want to leave in here. And that'll be a big problem. Never done it. I've heard of people doing it. I don't be put in that situation. I've made my share of mistakes over the years. We're good. Yeah, if you care about the ports, I mean, it'd be a good idea to clean these ports if you decide to, but it's not going to make any difference. Throw some brake cleaner down there, toothbrush, clean all that off. It's going to not start that well when you do start it up. All right, let me get my stuff back on and we'll do the first startup. I got my new gaskets on here. One thing I never understood with this engine, that's brake cleaner. That's gas. That's what that is. I thought it was brake cleaner. It was gas. One thing I never understood with this oil on this engine, why does it gel up so bad? And I wonder if it's because of the condensation and all the plastic and how that interacts with the oil is the reason why it has that gel kind of substance. It was weird. All right, let's see if we can do this. All right. Am I where I need to be? Yeah. These are 8 millimeter bolts. Here's the upper gaskets. These look a lot better than the lower part, but yeah, this is the gel. It feels like glue. It just don't feel like motor oil. Feel like some sort of adhesive. That's what it feels like. One thing I don't want to forget is that fuel line, and I might as well go ahead and do that while I'm thinking about it, because knowing me, I will forget something like that, and this don't seem like it'll be fun to have to look for while the intake is on. I'm pretty sure somebody forgot it. I mean, I can't be the only one that thinking about it right now could have forgot it. There's supposed to be a lock on there. I put it up here. This is the blue one. There we go. That's the lock. And up. All right, making progress. Almost ready for the first startup. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get the coolant in there, get it topped off. I checked the oil was about 1.5 quarts, 2 quarts low. So I got that topped off because of the oil leak. And I will be able to do the first startup. Let me, yeah, that's gone. Ain't nothing in there. Yeah, let me get the coolant topped off and I'll be right back. Got the coolant sitting in there. I had to take the intake partially off the intake hose, so I can crack that bleeder right at thermostat housing to let the coolant in there. I forgot all about that. And so we're good. We do the first startup. It's not going to start up because I sprayed the brake cleaner in there, and it's going to probably rattle because of the lack of oil in the oil filter housing. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure you got a couple options to start up, do a flood clear, disconnect press the accelerator pedal to the floor, do a flood clear, and it shouldn't start up. Or disconnect the fuel pump and just get the engine to rotate, but it's gonna start it up. Just like any other oil change, you drain the oil and you put fresh oil in there, none of the oil's in there. So what's the difference? Just start it up. Let's see what happens. That took like no problem, probably because of the massive displacement that this engine got. Cool. First startup, no problem. All right, I'm gonna let it run for a little bit, check around for the oil leaks, let the residual fluid mix with the brake cleaner in the valley, let that burn off. And let the coolant do its thing. Let the heat circulate. Well, let the heat come on, the coolant circulate. And that's it. So check over my work. Before I continue, I'm just letting the engine still run. And we're just going to inspect the housing. You hear that? This car does have that rattle, well, it's not a rattle, but a tick. Not from the evap purge valve, but it's a knocking tick, and I think one of those lifters are probably failing. It would surprise me, so I might have to do a video in the future if they decide to keep this thing. But here's the oil filter. This was replaced from an oil change facility. Not sure who, but that's new. Here's the oil filter housing, the old one. Here's the inlet and outlet for the oil cooler. This is for the coolant. This wasn't leaking. It was the oil that was leaking. Look how flat that gasket is. So the coolant was fine. They were not fine, but they were okay. They were still bad, don't get me wrong. But they have a lot more protrusion than the oil ones. This one was okay. So likely our problem was this one right here, because this is just flat. Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. Would not surprise me. So it's nothing special. I had problems getting this sensor out, which is the coolant temperature sensor. It was a 19. It just did not want to come out. I hit it with an impact and put it in a vise and try to pull it out. It didn't want to cooperate, so I just went ahead and got a new one. I wasn't going to sit there and question it, and that worked out just fine, putting a brand new sensor on it for the coolant temperature sensor. I got a standard motor product. I showed you that, so that's fine. So it's nothing special. It was just a crappy plastic part. I mean, it just made sense just to make it aluminum from the manufacturer to prevent this from happening at all. But I'm pretty sure I'm not the first person to mention that. Plastic on these vehicles are just, it's kind of redundant in a way. It's like, what's the point of putting plastic on there when they prematurely fail, they warp? I think the only benefit with plastic is how they retain heat. Other than that, it's just not, it's just pointless. Just use aluminum. I think it's very debatable though. I'd imagine, I don't know. I have to probably look up if plastics retain heat better than aluminum. but it seemed like aluminum probably would because of the surface area, but then plastic isn't a good absorbent. Oh shit, hold on. Sorry, the coolant started to overflow, so I had to shut it off. It was starting to build up because of the air pocket. So anyway, but I don't know. I don't want to get into the whole aluminum plastic thing, but it could have just done better. Oh, there you go. Coolant's dropping. Thermostat opened up. All right, I'm gonna keep on my test drive. Well, not continue. I'm gonna let the coolant do its thing first, and then I'll take it on my test drive. But everything's working out just great. It's not leaking or anything. Like I said, I gotta let all that old residual bake back on there and just burn off. But it runs fine. That's the main thing after reassembly. Check-in light was on for a oil sensor stuck off, but I had to clear that code. It was likely because of it running low on oil, extremely low, causing some problems. So that'll do it. All right, just got back off the test drive. It's like a 5-mile loop I typically take the vehicles on, and got the coolant topped off a little bit more so we don't have to worry about any leaks or anything. The heat's working, got the air out, got the coolant topped off, got the reservoir filled, so we should be good to go. Let me show you what it looks like behind the housing. There's just a little bit of oil down there. You can see the shiny spot. Nothing significant. Trust me, it'll bake on. But the intake area, all that stuff that I pulled off and cleaned out, it's definitely a lot better. It's just, you see some shiny spots down here at the base of the valley where there's going to be some collection. So I'm not gonna break my neck over it. This car is perfectly fine now for that issue, as far as that valve or lifter problem. I'm sorry, rocker arm problem. That's, well, yeah, lifter, rocker arm. That's going to be for another day. The labor time on this is supposed to be 4 hours, and I guess if you clean up and if you've been through this before, you can definitely get it done within 4 hours. And this was just somebody already been through this. Something was missing, cut right through it. Simple cake. So I got this done about right at 3 hours, for the exception of me having to leave and go to the parts store and getting some parts such as the coolant temperature sensor that I couldn't extract. Pretty sure I get a lot more of these. I swear I documented one of these before, but there are a million videos on repairing this common problem. So I got a story about a Tip'em that I had to replace on a Dodge. I'll probably set it for another day. It should be some useful information, but maybe when I get the Dodge, I think I'm supposed to work on it this week. When I get here, I'll probably just do a random video about it. But interesting story. And, yeah, hopefully it'll help somebody out. But anyway, I digress. This fix. Moving on to the next one. I got Alexa's I got to work on, pull a starter out. It's the LS460, so I might document that. So just look for that video. But if anything happened to this junk, which is a good piece of junk, it works, hit that link, subscribe to the channel, stay informed on how to research my work. So I'll keep you updated. See you next one.